Today we're here with Dr. Jacobson, Christian Healthcare Ministries Medical Director, and we're going to talk about a real fun subject, seasonal allergies. I know a lot of you experience that all across the country, and we wanted to get your take on it, Dr. Jacobson, about what are the typical symptoms and how do we address it?
Well, as far as the typical symptoms, if you think of hay fever, that's what most people associate with seasonal allergies. So it's sneezing, runny, drippy nose, itchy, watery eyes and nose. That's kind of the classic symptoms. And in general, that drainage that you get coming out with that you're blowing your nose on is clear. So that's allergies.
Okay, so clear, underline that word clear, right?
Yes.
So that's my next question is how do we tell the difference between a seasonal allergy and maybe a bacterial infection?
So an infection's going to have what we call in medicine purulence. It's going to have white blood cells in there, so it's going to turn that more like yellow or green. And what's interesting about it is that many people that have allergies may start with what we might call an allergy attack, where they start sneezing and itchy, watery eyes and that sort of thing, and blowing their nose, and it's all clear. But because there's an inflammatory response going on, then the mucous membranes and so on that normally protect them are intact from infection can give way, and then it can become an infection. So they're more vulnerable to coming down with bacterial or viral infections, even though it may not have started that way.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. If there is seasonal allergies, what would you recommend to take care of that?
So I think it really depends on maybe severity and how much you really need to dig into finding a solution. So if you just have mild symptoms, you're probably just an occasional antihistamine, taking a loratadine or trade name Claritin, or there's others like that are non-sedating antihistamines you can get over the counter. Then there's the older generation antihistamines like diphenhydramine is Benadryl, hydroxyzine is more prescription-based like Atarax. Those things are sedating, and just taking an antihistamine, they have variable lengths of what we call half-lives or duration of action. So diphenhydramine or Benadryl will last usually for up to 6 hours, whereas hydroxyzine might be more like 8 to 12. And so for me, having been somebody who's experienced allergies in a severe way years ago, I oftentimes would take something like hydroxyzine as a sedating antihistamine at bedtime. So it would control my allergies and those symptoms, and then sort of wear off during the day and not make me drowsy during the day. So just over-the-counter antihistamines is a great place to start for many people. And if it's just an occasional thing, that's probably sufficient. But for people that really have a serious problem with it, they're going to probably need to go deeper.
Okay. How about a natural way of taking care of things instead of an over-the-counter?
So that's tough. One common thought is that you try to enhance your immunity to things so that you're not reacting in an allergic way to what we call allergens out there, or antigens. And these are little particles of protein typically that might be found in the pollens or whatever that land in the nose and then provoke this reaction. So the histamine, by the way, is a chemical released by your cells to promote an inflammatory response, and it itches, it causes itching, so that's why we take antihistamines to control that. It's not really doing anything to prevent the problem. So I think what you're getting at is how do we maybe more naturally prevent it? And so one thing that's been suggested is consuming local honey, because it contains the residuals of pollens that the bees in the local area have collected. Personally, I think it needs to be raw as opposed to pasteurized, because the heat can destroy those proteins. You have to be careful about that because of safety issues. But if you get it from a reputable source and it's been properly processed, then should be okay. But raw honey is one of those things. And some people with very severe allergies to their environment and so on are encouraged to move away to areas like particularly Arizona's classic because of the lack of vegetation there and the reduced nature of pollens, although since they started watering everything and some of the citizens and all the plants are growing, it's becoming less of a haven for allergy sufferers.
Well, thank you so much for the information, and I hope this helps everyone. And we'll be talking to Dr. Jacobson very soon.